Now, families of children who were operated on by the suspended Addenbrooke surgeon Kuldeep Storr say action should be taken against managers at Cambridge University Hospitals Trust after a report found a series of missed opportunities to act sooner. They're also calling for a public inquiry into how Ms Storr was allowed to continue operating. 800 patients treated by her will now have their cases reviewed. Jane Death reports.
Kuldeep Storr was an orthopaedic surgeon at Addenbrooke's hospital. Her patients, children. But there are question marks over hundreds of the operations she performed, and Cambridge University Hospitals has been criticised for not acting on concerns about the consultant going back a decade.
The break was just above his ankle?
Just above his ankle, yeah, the lower part of his leg, and it done the tibia and the fibia.
2 years ago, Lucy Tim's son, Bobby, was walking home from school when he was hit by a car. His emergency surgery was not performed by Kuldeep Storr, but Bobby was transferred to her care afterwards. Lucy says it was soon clear there was a problem. Bobby's foot was turning inwards. But she says Kuldeep Storr was dismissive and effectively fobbed them off for over a year.
Whether she really truly believed there'd be change, I don't know. But she left us week after week, going back, waiting and waiting until finally I realised that actually we were now looking at corrective surgery and we were 14 months down the line.
It was only when Kuldeep Storr was off work and another surgeon saw Bobby, his leg was finally fixed. But after so long, the bones had fused. The surgeon had to break them again to reset them. The investigation published today concludes Kuldeep Storr was effectively left to pose a prolonged risk to patients, as some 32 opportunities to act were missed by managers. It was 10 years ago that concerns were first raised about Kuldeep Storr's surgical technique and decision-making. The hospital commissioned an external review of her work. The review was completed with recommendations around her practice, but these weren't acted on. A pivotal opportunity lost, according to the report. It wasn't until last year, when concerns were raised again, that a second independent review was ordered. When it concluded she had poor surgical technique, Kuldeep Storr was suspended. The Trust says managers didn't fully understand the early red flags. Kuldeep Storr was given a bigger caseload and more complex patients. The report says some of the children she performed hip and knee surgery on experienced significant harm. Bobby, who'd rather not appear in vision, thinks about them a lot.
I think I was very fortunate about what happened to me compared to other people who were hurt. And I think about that a lot. And I think that may have affected me mentally. I'm not sure.
Do you feel you got off lightly compared to some people?
Yeah, a lot. I think some people went through the exact same thing as me, but came out even worse than what happened to me. And I don't like that. I think I'm just a bit confused about why, that happened and how something like that slipped through the cracks.
If something had been acted upon back then, would we even be in this situation? People are suffering now that didn't need to. This could have all been changed and put right a very long time ago.
The Hospital Trust says it's deeply sorry.
The first failure is a failure of individual judgment and leadership. We've made changes to key roles in the service and in the board. The second is a failure of governance and process. We've changed the way that people can raise concerns, and we've changed the way that we handle external investigations.
Kuldeep Storr told the review she was overworked. The report says she tried to improve her clinical practice, but had to do so without the help of the Trust. She's previously said she always strove to provide the highest standards of care. Parents are calling for a public inquiry into events at this, one of the country's leading hospitals. Today's report does raise serious questions about the NHS's ability to act on concerns about a doctor's practice.
Well, a little earlier I spoke to Jodi Newton, partner and head of paediatric negligence at Osbornes Law. She represents 8 clients who've been involved with the paediatric department at Addenbrooke's Hospital, where surgeon Kuldeep Storr practiced. I asked her what she thinks the true scale is.
So the scale of it we know is already significant, and it seems to be that as the review process develops, it's widening all the time. We've been told that there are 800 patients that have been reviewed under the most recent external report, but my understanding is that there are other affected patients who weren't captured by the report. So I think there may be many more than the 800 we've already identified.
These are life-altering things that have happened to people, and children as well. I mean, what is the impact on those young people and their families?
Absolutely devastating. So as you correctly mentioned, there are mostly young people that are affected. It's paediatric orthopaedics. And many of those already have complex health conditions. So a lot of them are suffering from very severe disabilities and then to have to cope with an exacerbation of already very serious conditions, that's very hard. And there are also some that have orthopaedic-only conditions, and those could have been corrected shortly after their birth when they were young babies, and they've now got lifelong disabilities.
And the tragedy of this is that some of those people who were operated on didn't need to be, because had the hospital acted on the review almost 10 years ago, then this could have been avoided.
Yes, and I think that's what's heartbreaking for the families, is they've worked out the timelines and the chronologies, and much of the treatment that's been reviewed has post-dated that 2016 report.
So the question I think a lot of people will be asking is, how on earth could hospital bosses have had these concerns raised, commissioned a review, and then not acted on it?
I do think that their commitment to understanding the root causes of the delay in identifying some very serious shortcomings by this surgeon have been highlighted by the report. So I respect that they have looked into greater depth at how this went wrong and therefore how it can be avoided. But yes, you're quite right in saying that if you are commissioning reports, why on earth would you do that and then have the leadership go on to either misunderstand it, misinterpret it, or outright ignore it?
One of the extraordinary things about this latest report is that they talk about this investigation from 10 years ago, and Miss Storr herself, the surgeon, she appears to have understood that there was criticism of her and tried to do something about it, but her bosses did not.
So the finding is that she did appreciate the points raised and she did work on improving her practices, but then she received so little support systemically that it was more of a superficial response to the outcome of the report. But then there was also seemed to be a tension between her and the other consultants that she had been investigated. The outcome from the leadership, the messaging from the leadership, was that her practices were not substandard, which actually is in conflict with the findings of the report. And therefore, there was a reluctance by the consultants to then raise further concerns. They felt silenced. They felt very let down by the leadership.
But a lot of the consultants didn't even know this report existed. Is that correct?
No, they didn't, including the consultant that reported her, reported this as a safety incident. I believe that they were not allowed to see the report. Most people didn't see the report.
I mean, we've heard so many times, haven't we, with maternity scandals, whatever the scandal is within the NHS, the same phrases keep coming up, and they've appeared again today, talking about a culture that suppresses these sorts of things.
Yeah. And you're right in likening it to the maternity scandals, and there is a frustration among the community of professionals that I work within about patient safety and how we have these repeated and very well-meaning investigations into maternity safety failures, in this case, paediatric orthopaedic safety failures. And yet, despite these very extensive reports and a lot of work and commitment which has gone into those, there has been a lack of implementations of the recommendations.
Where do you go next with your clients and the patients who've been affected? I mean, are you looking for some sort of legal recourse? The hospital says, they're doing everything they can. It's never going to happen again and all that.
There's been a real ripple effect in that community because they need to return to that hospital for ongoing treatment, and there's no longer that feeling of safety. They're disappointed in the leadership and they think back to what could have been had this not happened. So that is an important outcome of this. So they need to build up this feeling of being safe in their own hospital and for treatment going forward. In terms of a legal remedy, they are entitled to, if there's been a breach of duty of care and that's been causative of harm, then they're entitled to bring a legal case for negligence against the hospital trust.
Jodi Newton, thank you very much.
Thank you.